Hold up.
Get with the program.
What you talking about?
The program. The program. Get with the program.
Everybody clap to this.
Say what? Get with the program.
It starts now.
Hello and welcome to Get With The Program Radio Show. I'm your host, Gary Jones. Get With The Program Radio Show is a multicultural, informative, relevant, and entertaining 1 hour weekly show offering you a combination of diverse interviews with questions and comments. And as always, we will act as a positive source of information. Now listen, if you want to be a guest on the show, all you got to do is log into www.getwiththeprogram.biz. Shoot me an email, leave me a message. You never know, you may have a conversation that we would love to talk about. Or you can give me a call at 919-255-2757. Again, the number is 919-255-2757. Or send me an email, GaryJones16@yahoo.com. Listen now, before we get started, I gotta reach out to my good friend, comedian Grave Digger. Grave Digger, tell me about what's going on with that Confederate flag, man. Tell me what's the deal right now.
What up, Gary? What up? I want you to sit down. I want everybody to sit down, take a seat, grab a drink, because y'all ain't gonna believe it. The new news out now. The rebel flag has been removed and banned from NASCAR. Ladies and gentlemen, you're not going to believe it. You know, the rebel flag has been banned and removed from NASCAR. That's like closing all the Walmarts to white people. They are losing their mind. Nobody, they taking their masks off and everything. The rebel flag, bro, removed from NASCAR. That's like taking chitlins out of Food Line. I'm telling you. Gary, you have a good day because the rebel flag has been removed from NASCAR. Oh, Lordy. Y'all have a good day. Peace.
Hey, listen, before we take any further steps, I gotta reach out to my good friend, commentary Steve Rouse.
Global pandemic that has hit America hard. Today, 2 million cases have hit us in America. We've got 115,000 deaths. In our home state of North Carolina, 1,064 deaths with over 579,000 tests completed. We have about 42,000 confirmed cases in the great state of North Carolina. All over the country, the epidemic is increasing. Cases are spiking as people have been marching the streets in protest and getting back to a reopened North Carolina and reopened economy. So we are really dealing with a global war on our healthcare and also our economy, with over 39 million Americans out of work and millions unemployed in our home state of North Carolina and all over the United States. So this is far from over. And as we're dealing with this war, we've been dealing with racism and tension. Most of the protests have been peaceful. They led George Floyd to rest in Houston. And now we have to heal as a nation and ask ourselves, why does systemic racism exist? There's no vaccine or cure for racism, but we know that it's a problem, and we have to make sure that we get to the root of it. So I believe it's about building bridges and having a community conversation, like my good friend True Pettigrew often says, that we've got to build bridges. But on that note, my final message today is about planning for the future. And it's very hard to plan for the future in an uncertain time. We don't know when schools are going to open again. We don't know when we're able to go outside and actually see each other in parks. Maybe we'll never hold hands again or shake hands again. But we also know that natural disasters may be on their way, like hurricanes, as we hit hurricane season. I think a big answer to a lot of our problems is using data that exists. For example, looking at websites or social media sites and patterns of the last major hurricane and Category 4 storms that hit. Looking at data on how cities are using social distancing and what kinds of deaths and the categories of people that are dying, what age group, and how do we contain those people from going out in public places so that we can slow the spread of the virus. Data, just like war, can be used for simulations so that we as Americans can predict better how to deal with crisis rather than always being in defensive mode. Press conferences and news articles and radio shows can only take us so far. The American people can only really get ahead of this terrible time that we're in and this uncertainty that we're in by being able to have real-time visibility into terms of how we can be better prepared for global healthcare disasters, for weather disasters, and also for racial distress and turmoil. It is certainly a perfect storm in America. I am confident that just as we did after World War II, our country will rally to greatness, and we will continue to be the greatest nation in the world. I pray for each and every one of you as we kick off this summer, and we can only hope and pray that we will continue to fight together in this war that we are in all fronts. Thank you all. God bless America, and I'll be back next week.
The route, man, I'm loving every minute of it, man. But listen, today we're going to be joined in the studio with KERWIN Pittman. He is the founder and executive director of RECIDIVISM, Reduction Educational Program Services, better known as REPS, a nonprofit geared toward reducing the recidivism rate in North Carolina. He is also a national social justice activist who advocates in the social justice field, particularly criminal justice, in which he is a voice for the voiceless. KERWIN also sits on the State Reentry Council Collaborative, created and headed up by North Carolina's Governor Roy Cooper. And today our topic is Activism Now. Hello, KERWIN, and welcome to Get With The Program radio show.
Hello, my brother. Thank you for having me, brother.
Brother, it's a pleasure to have you here. And I know you're a busy guy, man. I've been keeping up with you, watching you, man, and you was referred by a very good friend of mine. It's such a pleasure to have you here, man. And I know you got a lot of things going on. So, KERWIN, tell me about yourself, man. Where you from? What's happening?
So I'm from Raleigh, North Carolina. Raised in Raleigh, North Carolina. So right now, currently, what I got going on is these protests downtown. So kind of organizing these different groups in these protests and kind of leading and trying to be on the front line with these individuals, especially these young people, and lead by example and be the way for social justice activists and how we supposed to do it and how we should do it peacefully. You know, I always stress peace regardless of anything, because that's what we're trying to bring. We're trying to bring about a change through a peaceful means, but sometimes the fight can get a little ugly, and I know and I understand it, and sometimes that's part of the process. So we had a protest on March the 30th. The first one we had in Raleigh, in Raleigh, and it was one of the biggest ones in North Carolina. We had about 5,000 people came out. It was some stuff that happened after the protest that they tried to link to us, but that was.
Oh yeah, we're gonna talk about that. Yeah, I definitely heard about that. That was something that we didn't do.
Yeah,
I heard about that. Now I do want to ask you, being a black young activist yourself, is that an important role today and in this time?
Yeah, it's a very important role today and in this time, because we don't have too many of them. Like, we don't have too many young black activists, but males specifically. So, you know, we always see the females leading the charge, and they're being the voice for the voiceless, and they're standing up. But how many black males do you see on the front line? And I think a lot of people are scared because of the CONTEL program that was put in place back in the days that we know kicked a lot of activists off, such as Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Medgar Evers, these particular individuals. So you don't see a resurge of younger males stepping up to fill this void of being the voice for the voiceless and being the people's champion.
Yeah, it's very serious, and a lot of that has to do with history. They don't really know their history, which is another thing we're going to talk about. Why aren't there more young black leaders, though? Because we know we need leaders. Because we got to look at this. You know, Martin's gone. Brother Farrakhan is still here. The minister is still strong. I'm loving him. That's my dude,
that's right.
man. Woo, boy, that's my dude. And you know, we lost a lot of powerful leaders. So what's next? I mean, who is going to step up and fill this void? Because it's going to be one. I certainly hope not. But we're going to need some young leaders.
Exactly. Yeah, we're definitely going to need young leaders to step up and fill this void. And hopefully now in this time and climate, what's going on with the lynching of George Floyd publicly, hopefully now this will galvanize the people to really step up and really fill in the gap, not outside of this, not just in this moment, not just in this moment of what's going on with George Floyd, but even outside and beyond this for years to come. So hopefully they'll step up and these young leaders fill the void, because we definitely need them on the front line leading the fight in the cause for justice.
And I wonder often, the reason why they're not there yet is basically, we did talk earlier about perhaps some of the history they don't know, because I was just speaking with some elders the other day, and how the young generation don't know the history, don't know the white only, don't know how we've been beaten, they don't know. And so therefore they finally got a chance to actually visually see a black man getting killed. And this whole thing has taken off around the world. And I guess a lot of times, actually, I'm thankful for technology too, because had not the phone been there, Had not the video been there, this would have just got swept under the rug.
That's right.
As always. Now, organizing a protest. When you organize a protest, because that's a very serious thing, is getting the people together, making sure you're following the rules and regulations, the laws. How do you do that? How does this thing start? How do you work that?
Man,
it's got to be a lot, man.
It honestly is a lot. It's a lot of behind the scenes work as far as just contacting something as small as making sure the individuals have milk who are out there on the front line in case people get pepper sprayed to try to calm the burning sensation in their face. It's even something just as minute as that. So we make sure we provide medics out there in case some type of emergency pop off. We make sure we provide marshals out there to stop the traffic, just in case, so we don't have to depend on the police to stop traffic. We got our own people stopping the traffic. We make sure it's water out there, of course. A lot of people do not take seriously of hydrating themselves before you go into these type of things, because this is a physical activity and you will be sweating, especially if it's hot like it is now, and you're gonna be walking. It's eating. We make sure it's snacks available in little snack packs with water, just so they can have some food to bring their sugar back up if your sugar getting low from walking.
Right.
So it's, and not only that, just the logistical support of, okay, what's the route? Okay, how many people are we expecting? Okay, if this happened, what we're gonna do here? Okay, what's gonna be the message? What's gonna happen if somebody hijack the megaphone, or so you kind of got to have all these type of things in place to make sure the what ifs. But the beautiful thing about a protest is you let it flow organically, right? Because you can prepare for anything, but 9 times out of 10, what you prepare for is not gonna happen. It's something else is gonna happen differently. So you got to always be prepared to make that audible switch and just let it flow organically.
What about security?
Security is serious. So like the last protest, I had to have security, and not for just so I could maneuver through the crowds, because the crowds were so big, so I couldn't move to certain places really without having somebody say excuse me, pardon me, and kind of make a little way for me. But security is big. Particularly, I like to have our own people doing security instead of having law enforcement, because we know law enforcement is not doing security for us. They're doing security for these people property down here and for themselves. And so that's a whole nother subject.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I heard somebody tell me that a lot of people are worrying about the property, praying about the glass being broken. The thing about that, and this is just me talking, I don't know if people feel the same way, but the glass can be replaced.
Glass can be replaced.
Floyd can't be.
Floyd can't.
He's gone.
That's right.
And these people with these businesses, I mean, I'm not saying I'm glad it happened, but sometimes in life things happen. That's right. And sometimes when you start hitting people in their pockets, that's when they tend to open their eyes and see. But that video set it off. I'm thankful that the video did get out, because had it not, it would have been a mess.
That's right.
Organizing the protest in Raleigh, North Carolina, with so many things you're going up against, racism, the Republican Party, some people in the Democratic Party, just people who are not for the protests. What kind of problems did you run into, or did you run into any problems at all?
So I ran into small hitches. So this is how I kind of did it. So we organized the protest in a day and a half, right? And brought out almost 5,000, if not over 5,000 people. So I organized in a day and a half. But how I did it was I sent out the invites through Messenger or through text message, and I told individuals, look, don't put this out to nobody. Make sure you don't post it on social media. Make sure you text it to somebody or send it to somebody's inbox, right? And so I kind of wanted to keep that veil over it, because I didn't want to give law enforcement or anybody else the opportunity to try to hijack what we had going on and try to disrupt it, right? So within 15 minutes of me sending that out, I get a phone call. It's the news. Hey man, I heard you doing a protest. Now I didn't even attach my name to the message. So I'm like, yo, these people.
It got out.
It got out within 15 minutes. The news was calling me like, hey, I heard you was doing a protest, and I'm like, how you hear that? Like, I didn't even attach my name to the text messages that I sent out. But so yeah, it was. So at that point, the news interviewed us on. I said, well, it's out there now. So I went on the news, interviewed us on it. And it was people. At the time, I didn't face too much blowback, because people was scared, for one, to speak up against that because of what just happened recently to George Floyd, and they didn't want to seem like they was going against that. So a lot of people just remained silent. But I'm pretty sure, and especially now, I know that individuals did not like it. But now you have individuals such as the Republican Party members. The GOP has actually did a march, and they tried to call me in to march with them, but I wasn't going to do that. So they're using this opportunity as political stunts now. to say, okay, you see, I'm Black Lives Matter, I'm cool with it, but you got policies that's killing black people.
Right.
But you issuing different things that's killing black people daily, and you have the power to change different things or to just implement different legislation, and you're not even doing this, but you want to march out here and say Black Lives Matter and want to see somebody at the forefront of the movement who the people could trust and make it think like you are,
That's a good point, because I want to ask you, since you said that, do you think that everybody that was in the march that day was really down with the movement?
Oh no, I definitely not. When I was up there speaking to the crowd, I could see faces, and so you could read people's facial expressions for the majority of them. And some of the stuff that I said, you could tell that some of these, and I'm gonna keep it real, majority of them was white guys that was in the crowd. But some of the white guys, they did not like what I was saying, and I could see it on their faces. And so I kind of felt like that Malcolm X moment. That I kind of felt like the Malcolm X moment, like, dang, they just waiting for the opportunity to hit me in the head if I turn the wrong way or if I say the wrong thing. So that was another reason why I had security too, to help move me through the crowd, because I ain't want to get hit in the back of the head moving through the crowd or get stuck with a pin that ain't no telling what's in it, or just so different things of that level and that nature. But yeah, everybody out there wasn't supporters. Let me say that. It was a whole group called the Proud Boys. And so this group is based out of Oregon, but this group, I had received word a day before that they was coming to disrupt the actual protest. And how they disrupt, they don't disrupt while we out there protesting. They wait till nightfall, and then they actually go in loot stores and burn stores, and they have been doing this all over the country. Wow. And so they was antagonizing the police all over the country. So I received their word they was coming, as well as a police officer reached out to me and was like, yo, I heard you having this protest tomorrow, but listen, I want to inform you that it's a group coming out and just to antagonize. And I'm like, yeah, I already know that. I'm like, I already know. Is there anything we could do? I said the only thing that you could do is tell Raleigh Police Department to not antagonize the people that's out there, and everything is going to be peaceful.
Because I did hear and I did see on some of the news stories through some of my media sources is that some of the windows that were getting broken out, some of the paint that was going on the walls and different buildings were done by another group that had nothing to do with your movement.
Yeah,
it was
exactly.
there, and then it looked like African American community did that.
Exactly.
So it made it look bad. But I'm glad that they're bringing it out to make that known that that's what happened.
Exactly.
So we won't get blamed for that.
Exactly.
Now, how was it? I know you had a sit down talk with the governor, right?
Okay.
Talk to Governor Roy Cooper. How was it like meeting Roy Cooper? How was he taken with this whole thing?
Roy Cooper got a chill disposition, and it was a great meeting. He was so Roy Cooper was for one feeling sympathy for what happened to George Floyd, and I could understand it as a white male and understanding like white privilege and him having all that, how he must have felt. So majority of the time these people feel guilty for what happened and the system that's currently plaguing and killing our people, and which we seen with George Floyd play out. So I feel like he was real sympathetic to what was going on, and we just explained to him, and he told us, he was like, listen, I know y'all protest was peaceful. He said, I know that the agitators came in and it started after y'all had left, because it started majority after everybody that organized, all the organizers left. He was like, I know this, and so that right there, that alone just changed the tone of how you had other officials like the mayor and the police chief now started treating the other protesters or in the days to come. But yeah, so he told me, he said, it's always people over property. He said it's always people over property and Black Lives Matter. So he told us that personally in the meeting.
Now, did you get a sense feeling that he really understands racism as it affects Black African Americans by you having that conversation with him?
I got a sense that because as a white male, and to be honest with you, bro, as a white male, you will never really understand the totality of how that is because you're not in our shoes. So when the police get behind us or law enforcement get behind us, you're not gonna feel that same sense of urgency that a black man gonna feel like, yo, this might be the end for me. So a white male is gonna feel like probably why you pulling me over. The black man gonna feel like, let me make sure I got my hands where he can see him. That's our first thought. So for one, he could never truly feel exactly what we felt. But do he sympathize with us? I believe that he sympathized with us because he see a system and he's seeing, okay, well, how can I change? I'm in this position as the leader of this state. How can I change this? And I got a sense that he wanted to come in there. He called us in there to see how could we change this. He didn't call us in there talking about no property. Like he called us in there, how can we change the brutality and this kind of culture that's plaguing our state right now?
And that was going to be my next question, police brutality.
Okay.
Can it be fixed? Will it be fixed? And if not now, And when? What do we do next?
Police brutality, in my honest opinion, can be fixed. So I don't believe totally in the abolitionist standpoint of throwing the whole thing away, because in a sense they are needed, but now to say how they're doing their job excessively, it needs to change. So how this changes, we need to do policy, right? So it's good to protest, but protests to bring about policy change. We can't get it twisted. It's good to get in the streets and make noise and say, yo, we're not gonna stand for this. Okay, but then what's next? So the next step is getting these policies changed. If we can create stronger policies that hold these officers accountable, to where you kill any man unjustly, you get a life sentence automatically, I promise you they'll stop doing it. You get 20 years automatically, I promise you that'll stop happening. And we put on the books clear-cut policies to where you can't weasel your way out of that, to where they overcharge you with first-degree murder, knowing that you didn't premeditate it. So knowing that the jury's not going to find you guilty of first-degree murder, but if they charge you with the right charge, then, and with these right policies in place that clearly spell these things out, and these people start getting life sentences, I promise you that culture will start changing.
I believe that. Now, what about police defunding? What do you think about that? Because I hear people saying police defunding. You think that
so a lot of people got it. So the narrative of defund is kind of a negative stigma for people, right? So they hear defund the police, but the police ain't gonna have nothing but sticks. And that's their mindset, right? And so it's not necessarily saying, okay, well, we're gonna take all the money away from the police. So Raleigh Police Department budget right now is like 100 and something million.
And we're talking about Raleigh, North Carolina.
Raleigh, North Carolina. Budget right now is like 100 and something million. So we're saying that some of these 100 and something millions of dollars for them to get military style weapons and military style armored vehicles to use on the citizens and shoot tear gas on the citizens and rubber bullets like they did at the first protest, that could be used for something else. Let's put this money into housing. Let's put this money into more mental health social workers. So these people who are having having crisis situations could kind of be talked out of this and de-escalate this. Let's put this money towards de-escalation tactics. Let's put this money towards education. Let's put this, because the racist intent is in all these other fields. It's in housing, it's in school, it's in the criminal justice system, it's in policing. So we're saying if we could take some of these funds, instead of getting them the latest armored vehicle that shoot grenades out the side of it, or shoot rubber bullets out the side of it, let's downgrade that armored vehicle and put some of these millions of dollars towards something else, fighting the system of racism. And so that's the issue that we're having. So we're not saying totally take all the money away from the police. We're saying, why do they need hundreds of millions of dollars? That don't make sense to us.
Right. Now, do you think the elected officials are doing their part? Basically, what I hear a lot of now is that, of course, some of the elected officials had not really been doing a lot or more as they could do until this incident happened. Now we see a lot of people stepping out. Like today, I think I saw on the news that the judges, they had the judges in prayer. You know, you never seen that's never been done. I've never seen that. You know, that was really interesting. But you know what we're gonna do, my brother Pittman? What we're gonna do? We're gonna take a break, and when we come back, we're gonna talk more on this topic, man. This is really good. Once again, you're in the studio today with Brother KERWIN Pittman, man. He's a community activist, very strong brother in the community, and we're gonna take a break, but we'll be right back after this. Hello, welcome back to Get With The Program Radio Show. Again, I'm your host, Gary Jones. Now listen, today we're joined in the studio with KERWIN Pittman. He is the founder and executive director of Recidivism Reduction Educational Program Services, known as REPS, a nonprofit geared towards reducing the recidivism rate in North Carolina. He is also a national social justice activist who advocates in the social justice field, particularly criminal justice, in which he is a voice for the voiceless. KERWIN also sits on the State Reentry Council Collaborative, created and headed up by North Carolina's Governor Roy Cooper. Hello, KERWIN, and welcome back to the program.
Hello, my brother. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. You know, we were talking about a lot of good stuff, you know, before the break, and so we're going to touch on some of the recidivism. I want to talk about that a little bit. Okay. Tell me about that. How are we handling that? Is there a system in place for Black African Americans to return to society when it comes to stuff like that?
So dealing with recidivism, for one, we got to understand the whole criminal justice system breakdown, right? So, and all of it is economics. So for one, they'll lock people up, right, for money, right, because we know it's all money. And then while you are incarcerated, they don't provide you with the necessary resources to actually rehabilitate yourself. Like different models like Virginia is doing. So Virginia has an awesome recidivism reduction model, and their recidivism rate is the lowest in the country, but North Carolina does not want to adopt that model because it does cognitive behavior therapy, and they feel like just giving people anger management or the option to take anger management, they feel like that's helpful, right? So when you get individuals in there who are not properly guided on how to reduce the recidivism rate, actually giving them trades that they can actually use once they come home, and making sure once they come home that they are probation officer providing them with a list of jobs based on the certifications that they got in prison. They're not doing that. So they ain't doing that model. So when a brother come home or somebody comes home, they're more likely to go back. Why? Because for one, their housing that they left from is not up to par. They need food. They need shelter. They see the responsibility with their kids, so their kids need things. So if you come home and your kids is hungry, then what you gonna do? Like right. you got to feed your family, and so they put drugs in the community and different things in the community now where it's easily to get accessible to. So you got to understand, if you starve, and not to compare, if you starve an animal, and not to compare by no means our brothers and sisters to an animal, but if you starve anything and then you finally throw a little food in front of them, they feel like we can get this food, they're gonna go get that food. That's right. And so it's kind of the same concept with the criminal justice system right now. And so particularly it's taking down black men at an expeditiously rate. They're actually going back at a higher rate than any other population in the United States.
And we already overpopulated with that anyway. Exactly. Being locked up. Exactly. Yeah. So when they get out, you're absolutely right. So when they get out, it's a rotating system. They go right back in, and it's just fueling the financial part of the prison system. Exactly. Over and over again. It's really a bad thing. Now the criminal justice system, I mean, we know it's a broken system, and are people awake to the fact that a similar situation like George Floyd could happen again? I mean, I'm back to Floyd again. Okay. I mean, are they aware that this could happen again?
They very much should be aware that this could happen again, because right here in the city of Raleigh, North Carolina, a couple days ago, a guy got in a car accident, and the police hopped out on him with actual M16 guns drawn, and they treated this man like he was like just killed somebody. And in lieu of what just happened with George Floyd, you would think that law enforcement will be more sensitive to different things that are going on. And so you had a lot of brothers out there like, nah, you ain't doing that today. The police got the M16s out with the guns, and they step back. He like, nah, you ain't doing this while I'm right here. You ain't gonna do this today.
And eventually the brothers that stand up for this are gonna wind up eventually getting incarcerated right back into that system we just talked about.
Exactly.
And it's a complete cycle. Now, somebody mentioned this to me the other day, and I know this is a little bit off topic. Reparations. For blacks. What is your thoughts on that?
Reparation for blacks, right? And it should not, in my opinion, be in the form of monetary sums, right? But we gotta think deeper than just having physical, tangible money, because money at the end of the day, we know, is just a piece of paper that the United States signed an amount to, and it's just a tool to trade goods. So when you start talking about land, when you start talking about giving actual property, when you start talking about giving assets to these individuals in the form of reparation, and we give you assets, then that's a whole different league of things right there. Because we could do something with these resources and these minerals in the ground versus doing something with a piece of paper, which I'm gonna take to your stores and buy back your stuff anyway. So, and I ain't gonna do nothing but give you back my reparations. Well, I'm just buying some bull jobs. So you want to do something and do reparations for individuals? Give them assets, give them land, give them where they could mine the minerals and the resources, and they could be self-sufficient based off of what you gave them. Because reparations is no good for nobody if I can't be long-term self-sufficient off of these reparations. If it's a temporary fix, then it's no good.
It's no good because at the end of the day, I was talking to another brother of mine, man. He had mentioned that the way to get attention is to hit them in the pocket. So if we were to get reparations, were to get money, the wisest thing to do would be to spend it in our own community.
That's right.
Instead of spending it back into the community, the source that it come from.
That's right.
Which we just digging a deeper hole for ourselves. So it is something to think about. You have some very good points there. Now, I noticed that you're also the author you're also an author who penned the book Love Yours.
Love Yours.
A guide on how to love yourself. Tell me about the book. We're going to talk more about the conversation.
Okay.
Tell me about the book and where can people get it?
Okay, so the book Love Yours, a guide on how to love yourself. It could be purchased through Amazon, as well as I have a website on my Instagram page. So if you go to activist_KERWIN_Pittman, you'll see it right there at the top. It'll take you to my website, the Love Yours website, so where you can grab the book from. So basically, this book is a guide on how to teach individuals how to love themselves. So it provide different techniques. Something as small as waking up every day. Just one of the many techniques. Waking up every day and putting something on your mirror in the bathroom, right? So when you go in that bathroom, the first thing you're gonna see is a message to yourself, uplifting yourself, right? So when you first wake up, your consciousness is at its highest level, so to take in and receive stuff. So you most definitely need to flood yourself at that moment with different positive and inspirational messages, talking about loving yourself. So I created this book honestly with the black woman in mind, because I know that subconsciously, whether they realize it or not, a lot of us are suffering from lack of love in ourselves. And I say that because of, if you really love yourself, you got to embrace every aspect of you. So you don't have to put weave in your hair. You don't have to put, and it goes to the males as well, because we'll be something that we're not. You don't have to wear fake things. You just have to love what the divine gave you and what how the creator made you. And so they got us looking at ourselves and outside of ourselves, because we see so many images based on the television or other things of different images of how we're supposed to be, and we want to subscribe to that image, but that's not the way the divine has made us. And so it just basically get you back to the basis of teaching you how to love yourself wholeheartedly and embracing you for you.
Now, speaking of to love yourself, which is another good point you mentioned, to love yourself, you have to first know who you are.
That's right.
That's one thing. Is sharing past history necessary for our young generation?
Oh man, it is most definitely necessary. A beautiful person once said that a people without a history is like a tree without roots, right? They said a people without a history is like a tree without roots. So if you don't tell these individuals, these younger generations, our history, they don't even have no roots to ground themselves in. So how can I believe in myself when I don't even got no roots of knowing who I am? And slavery already disconnected that. So the little bit of history you do know, man, you better pour into these kids.
That's right. You know, I hear now that they haven't really been teaching Black history a lot in preschool, elementary, and middle school, junior. They have gotten away from that.
Exactly.
The Black history, you know, which now the young generation now, they really didn't know what was going on until they saw this murder.
Exactly.
Now, when they see this, now we have little kids talking about it. I mean, the young generation is stepping up. So I think sometimes when things happen in life, there's two things I do know that happens that will bring people together. Of course, one is death. When somebody dies, you notice when someone dies in the family, you can have some of the people in your family can hate each other, be mad at each other, but when somebody died, you all come together.
Come back together.
You know, it come together. So this situation with George Floyd, it actually, although it was bad, and I hate that happened to him because I felt that pain too, but what it did, it brought a nation together. It brought them together, even the young generation. And I don't know if that white police officer really know he did a bad thing, but he has done something. They have opened a can of worms.
That's right.
And they don't know. You know, I guess we're telling it right now, but they have definitely opened up something.
But they seeing it now because people are protesting every day.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's happening. Now, we can talk about George Floyd a little bit now and police brutality.
Okay.
With the police department now, particularly the one here in North Carolina, do you think they are doing enough, and are they fair when it comes to arresting African Americans?
No, they are definitely not fair. So they're arresting African Americans at a rate 6 times higher than any other counterpart, especially for the same type of crimes. Blacks are receiving, or African Americans are receiving, a harsher sentence, more time than their counterparts. And we know that the style of policing right now is nothing but modern day slave catching. So the police, in my opinion, are nothing but modern day slave catchers. And so, and what we seen with the brother George Floyd was a modern day lynching. So it's nothing but history repeating itself, just in different forms. So the question is, how can we stop this cycle from repeating itself. And this is what you're seeing right now as the people stand up. Just like the revolt in Haiti, how they stood up and how they said, yo, no, we ain't doing this no more. We're going to create a new system. And so this is what we got to do. Basically just stand up and create new systems, pushing different legislation and different policies to where it is annihilated for police brutality to happen.
I had asked the police chief on a show I was on, and I asked him what systems do they have in place to be able to recognize a racist officer. And he stalled for a minute. He says, Gary, that was a good question. Yeah. But he came off because what system, how can you recognize? What systems do they have in place to be able to recognize an officer like that? And the biggest thing I have is that when something like this happened, African Americans, Black African Americans, we have a tendency, we raise up, we march, we make noise. Somewhere down, a month or two down the road, we calm down, and then it happens again.
That's right.
See, I guess my question would be, Kerwin, what would happen if this happens again?
If this happens again, as you could tell right now,
because this is where they reacted this time.
The country, not only the country, the world is at their breaking point. And so what we don't want to happen is individuals to start going in on the police and actually it be an all-out war, because I honestly believe it's almost to that point. You have individuals who are like, yo, you're not gonna kill me and you're not gonna kill none of my family members. And it's honestly national leaders who are now saying like, yo, if these individuals you kill somebody in my family, I'm coming to kill you or somebody in your family. And so we don't want it to get to that point, because the police, for one, are here to protect and serve, right? But who you are protecting and who are you serving? You caring more about protecting property and serving the establishment than protecting the people and serving the people who pay the taxes, who pay you, who pay the city, who pays you, right? And so if another incident happened, my brother, I am honestly, I'm not gonna say scared, but it will be. Listen, it'll be a terrible thing.
In the younger years, and I would say maybe 30 years back, my grandmother and of that particular culture, there was a certain fear of a white race.
That's right.
There was a certain fear, but now, if you notice, the generation now, they're getting aggressive.
Yeah,
there's changing now.
That's right.
So you're right. If something like this happened again, it could be a bad thing. It could be tough, you know.
It could be honestly tough.
It could be honestly tough. Now, when situations like this happen, I noticed the races are coming together now, and for once, I've seen the Hispanic community come together with the African American community, which is a good thing. Could that perhaps be some fear to the white race that the blacks, the minorities are coming together and about to be a majority, which actually already are.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there some fear there, you think?
Oh, most definitely fear. For one, if they come together, they're gonna figure. If they come together, the establishment gonna say, "Yo, they done woke up and figured it out." They understand now. They see the bigger picture. Now they see how much of a bigger block they have than we have. And so it is definitely a fear, because once you get all these individuals together, you cannot continue to play the divide and conquer strategies. So your strategies, majority of them, is not going to work no more. Why? Because we possess the numbers. We possess the numbers to overthrow whatever you're doing. And so we possess the numbers to get in these positions and move you out of these positions and begin to make change. The only thing about that is when we get in these positions, we got to make sure we stay on point with the message and what we're trying to do and stay together collectively. And so that's the issue, because you can put a black in a position and he feel like he has arrived, and now he look down on the same people he just was hanging with. And that's the issue.
Because even on the force, even in the police force, you have black and you have white cops, you know. And so now I wonder, is there going to be a divide with that? Because, you know, when I saw some of the protests, I saw some of the white cops. Some of them kneeled, some of them didn't. Some of them put their fists up, but most of the brothers, the black cops, they put their fists up. So there's still a divide even in the police department. I could see that, although they were standing together. But I wonder, when something really goes down, what's going to happen with that?
Exactly. So when something goes down, so you got to understand even the police department possess racist tenets even with inside of it physically, right? So you're gonna have this group of whites who are just like, yo, we for the white people and we for just not locking it. You gonna have a group of blacks who like, yo, you know, I'm for black people, but I can't let these group of white people see that I'm not for what they for, because then they gonna come after me. And so that's why you seen that divide like that even then. And so, but my thing is this, and so this is why one of the demands that we're pushing is for good cops to step up. We know that it's bad apples in every bunch, but we know that a bad apple can spoil the whole bunch as well. And so that's our thing. So if you see an individual committing a crime and you're supposed to be the one that stop crime, why don't you stop that individual? All them officers was out there, nobody could tell the officer that was on George Floyd's neck, like, yo, bro, you might need to move back. You need to get up. You need to get off of him. And so that's one of the policies that we're pushing right now. If you don't step up to say something, then you just as guilty as them. And guess what? You're going to go down right with them.
And that's a good point. That's my next question. I've noticed now that he's been charged, the policeman that murdered George Floyd. He's been charged, but no conviction yet. Yeah, and the thing about it is, the other officers that were there as well, and I think that they said that one was a new officer. So do you feel that all of them should be charged?
Most definitely. Charge all of them, because if you look at the way they was positioned, you had one officer pushing people back or telling them don't come up while he was actually looking at George Floyd lose his life. You had the officer on his neck, and then you had, if you looked around the car, you had like 2 or 3 officers on George Floyd's body. So all of that contributed to this man's death. It wasn't just the knee on the neck, it's the knees on the body as well, pushing the air out of this man too. And so yeah, all of them should be, because I tell you what, my brother, if we go out and do a crime together, you think they just gonna charge me or they gonna charge both of us?
Oh no. If the shoe was on the other foot, if the shoe was on the other foot, had that been a black officer on a white man's neck, it probably would be a conviction already. It would probably already be charged.
Next day, that would have been the speediest trial in history.
And thinking about the death penalty. Now, I noticed recently the athletes and the movie stars and the stars are stepping up. They're coming up now. They're coming together. I think we're slowly. That's why I say when incidents like this happen, sometimes some good come out of it.
That's right.
And but now I notice the stars, the celebrities that have money, they're coming together. I think they said something like Tyler Perry spent some money for transportation for some people to get here. That stars are coming together, so it is kind of bonding. The athletes are stepping up, and I certainly hope that they stick together. Now, the police chief, we're talking back to Raleigh, North Carolina. Okay. The police chief here. All right. What is your take on her movement, and what does she feels about it? What do you think she's thinking?
The police chief know that her days are numbered. She's buying time right now. Cassandra Deck Brown, I have asked her to step down publicly. If you Google my name, KERWIN PITTMAN, all this will pop up. So I asked her to step down publicly, and I asked her why. And she's a black woman too, for those who are listening, right? And so my thing is this: as a leader, the chief of a department, especially the police, you have to lead by a strong example. It has been killings going on unjustly by Raleigh Police Department in the city of Raleigh for years. And Raleigh Police Department has blood on their hands. Let's make no mistakes about that. Let's be clear. And she has not yet wants to step up and say, you know what, we may have done this wrong. We didn't do this right. I'm going to fire this officer. This officer should be charged. She have yet to step up and say any of that. She still sides with her officer. Even after her officers at our protest shot tear gas into the crowd, and they gassed elderly and kids. When a little girl was shot with a rubber bullet in her mouth and knocked out 4 of her teeth. When an elderly person was pushed down and then a tear gas canister burnt their leg. When all this is happening, she has yet to step up and say, you know what, we did a bad thing. We will not do this again. This is an experience we're going to learn from. Let's move forward. We're sorry. Black Lives Matter. When somebody asked her, Cassandra Deck Brown, do you think Black Lives Matter? You know what she said?
What's that?
All lives matter. So at this current time and climate, when blacks are being killed at an expeditiously rate than any other race by law enforcement in the country, you say all lives matter? All lives do matter. Don't get it twisted. But black lives is mattering at this moment right now. And this is what the people need to see you say, and they need to hear you say this. And your officer needs to hear you say this, because this is the stance that they know you need to take. So they won't put the knee on the next George Floyd neck. So they won't do another Keith Collins. So they won't kill another Sohail Majaris. So they don't kill another Akiel Dinkins. So they don't kill another Curtis Mangum. So they don't beat another Kyron Hinton. And this is all incidents that are happening in Raleigh, North Carolina. And the list goes on. So Raleigh Police Department, Cassandra Deck Brown, the chief of police for Raleigh Police Department, the blood is on your hands. And you are by far not exempt from what's going on right now.
Do you think that she's afraid, or do she have the power?
She's afraid. she has the power to make a change because, like I said, leadership start from the top down. So if you come in under my command and you see I don't play that police brutality stuff, you see I done fired a couple jokers, I done got a couple jokers prosecuted. You see we have strong policies because she has the opportunity to set these policies forth for this Raleigh Police Department. You see we have strong policies that we are enforcing. You're gonna be real cautious about how you go out here and you conduct yourselves with the public, but yet she doesn't do this. And I say scared because she had a position like this. I don't want to speak up and speak out about what's going on. By her doing this, for one, it makes the establishment feel good. She is okay. She's one of us. But it makes the people feel like she don't care. She don't step up and say nothing. And the sad thing is she a black woman. And she got black kids. And that could easily be, if her son go into another city or another state, her son could easily be George Floyd. But yet you don't speak out against this, and you're in a position right now to stop this from happening right now in your own city. Come on, man. You got to go.
If she was replaced, who would you think could take the job?
Right now, honestly, who could take her job? I sure do not want Rick Armstrong, who is the police union guy, because this is a white guy who possesses racist tenets, and me and him have went back and forth, but I know they will be championing for him to step up. And if he step up, I promise you I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure he does not get that position, as well as he's removed from that position. So right now, who I can honestly say, I can't honestly say who, but I want model examples like other cities right now are currently, when you have the police chief of Durham, who's out there with his citizens, who's currently stepping up, who's currently putting policies in place. I would like individuals like this who are progressive and who are actually fair, unjust, just and unbiased about the situation of police brutality. These are the individuals I want.
Because I did notice, you're absolutely right. I did notice that the police chief in Durham, North Carolina, was definitely out visually a little bit earlier than the chief in Raleigh, North Carolina, because people wanted her to come out. Raleigh wanted the chief to come out and speak, but I think it took a while. I don't think she came right out right away.
She never came. So the chief from the very onset of the protest, the first protest we had, the next day when all the buildings and stuff was vandalized or whatever, the chief came out and called the whole protest, called us all rioters and looters. So the next day when we met with the governor, and the governor said, nah, these individuals was peaceful. And the governor had to say to the state of North Carolina and all the officials, like, these was peaceful individuals. What happened later on had nothing to do with these individuals. That's when she changed her stance, when she seen the governor taking a softer approach. Before then, we already know your true colors now. And even then, now up until this point, the most she did was came out and said, I'm going to give you 15 more minutes to these young kids. I'm going to give you 15 more minutes before this curfew is over, before I lock you up. I'm going to give you an additional 15 minutes past the 8 o'clock or the 10 o'clock curfew, give you the 10:15 to get in your cars and go home. If not, we're going to lock you up. So if you think that's her stance of showing leniency towards or progressive stance towards the people and the citizens in Raleigh, that tells you where she's at with it.
Well, what is the other law enforcement departments doing? The sheriff, what are they doing? Are they stepping up?
So currently Gerald Baker hasn't said anything, and I am going to meet with Gerald Baker to kind of see where he stands on these issues, because not only he's able to create a sheriff advisory board for Wake County, which hold these officers accountable, and one of the things that we're pushing forth in Raleigh. So he's able to have a say in the creation of this board, and to speak up and to speak out against what's going on. And as a black man, he needs to take a full progressive stance with this. If not, you're gonna have Donnie Harrison come back with his ring, and we know how that went for so many years.
Wow, yeah, that was interesting. That was truly interesting. Wow, these officers and elected officials, and then the district attorneys, they're in control of this thing. They have a lot of power. And you know what's so interesting? I recently, maybe a few years back, found out the power of the district attorney.
She got a lot of power.
The district attorney has a lot of power.
The district attorney has a lot of power. So for those who don't know, the district attorney possesses more power than the majority of any player in the criminal justice system. Why? Because they have the option to actually charge you with these things and make these things kind of stick them to you, right? So We need, in the city of Raleigh, we need a progressive district attorney like Satana DeBerry is in Durham, who takes a progressive stance and say, yo, I understand this is a broken, biased, racist criminal justice system, but I'm going to try to do what I can do to fix it. Right now in Raleigh, North Carolina, who we currently have is Lauren Freeman. And Lauren Freeman takes the stance of, I'm not going to charge these officers with nothing. Why? Because they are of the city of Raleigh, and they're Raleigh police officers. So when they beat KERWIN Hinton, guess what she did? She didn't charge not one of Raleigh Police Department officers. The sheriff's department officer got charged. The highway patrolman got charged. But Raleigh Police Department was right there swinging and kicking KERWIN Hinton the same. But you choose not to charge them, but you would charge a whole nother agency. So that show you where she at with it. Every time there's been an injustice in the city of Raleigh dealing with Raleigh Police Department and killings of individuals, Keith Collins, Sohail Majard, she has chose not to charge these individuals. And somebody like that does nothing but uphold a system of white supremacy and pretty much racial bias in the criminal justice system. So it is key players in this system who holds these positions of power, who uphold these type of racist tenets that what we have right now. So we need to get rid of them.
So what about the mayor?
Mary Ann Baldwin cares nothing about but property. If you look at her statements, all she said was about the property damage. She did not once come out and say Black Lives Matter. You know, we understand it's a broken system. What we're going to try to do. No. So her solution was, we're going to get racial equity training for the city council and for myself. We're going to do racial equity training, and we're going to give y'all a Citizens Advisory Review Board that does nothing. It changed no policy. All you can do is just look at a little policy. You can't look at citizen complaints. You can't look at complaints against officers. You can't bring subpoena power to subpoena officers. You can't do nothing with this board. And so she threw this out here like, this is actually going to make a difference. We're going to appoint people to this board right now to try to get this thing of racism out. No. So Mary Ann Baldwin cares nothing about the people. All she cares about is property. Look at her stance. She's talking about bailing, using actual funds to bail these businesses out. Yeah, we got these businesses. That's pretty much what she said in her statement. Business owners, don't worry, your stuff was tore up, but we're going to give you some money so you can rebuild your stuff. Instead of, you know what, we're going to give the community some money so they can stop this system of racial bias that's going on in housing, in education, in the criminal justice system. We're going to take some of this money from the police department. She ain't do none of that. She ain't say none of that. So that shows you what side that she's on and what system she's with.
What about the council members? Are they stepping up?
So you have one progressive council member, Sage Martin, and I want to shout him out, especially Sage Martin. He's on board with a lot of demands and really take a progressive approach when it comes to police brutality and trying to fix the system. The rest of them are quiet, to be honest. And so we had a 5-hour Zoom conversation with the mayor, Mary Ann Baldwin. We had a 5-hour Zoom conversation. 2 hours, it was like 2 hours. They broke them up in groups. So one of them was with Mary Ann Baldwin and a couple council members. The other one was with another council members. Basically saying, how could we hash out these differences and actually come to some term of policies that could be put in place to stop this racist bias system on a multitude of levels. And that was pretty much fruitless. That was pretty much a show for them to say, listen, we met with these individuals who coordinated this big protest, and we're going to make it seem like we're now beginning to make a change. We're in the first steps of making a change, but they ain't did nothing. And they ain't say nothing in the meeting. And I'm going to call it like it is.
That's what you do. That's why we on the show.
That's right.
Get with the program.
That's right.
That's right. Listen, brother, it's been a good show. I'm telling you, I've definitely enjoyed it. And I want to let my guests know today we're joining the studio with KERWIN Pittman, who is the founder and executive director of Recidivism Reduction Educational Program Services, better known as REPS, a nonprofit geared towards reducing the recidivism rate in North Carolina. He is also a national social justice activist who advocates in the social justice field, particularly criminal justice, in which he is a voice for the voiceless. KERWIN also sits on the State Reentry Council Collaborative, created and headed up by North Carolina's Governor Roy Cooper. My brother, thank you for a good show today.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you for having me. And people can find me on Facebook at KERWIN Pittman. You can find me on Instagram at activist_KERWIN_Pittman. You can find me as well as, if you want to reach me, on my website, www.rreps.net. Again, that's www.rreps.net. You can actually donate on that page. So if you want to donate to the cause, uplifting this fight, and supplies, getting supplies to the people on the front line protesting, please donate.
Wonderful show, Brother Kerwin.
Thank you.
I
Thank you
appreciate
for
it, man. Thank you so much. Listen, once again, you listen to Get With The Program radio show. I am your host, Gary Jones. As I always say, stay positive, keep your head up, and remember to
Get with the program.
What you talking about?
The program. The program. Get with the program.
Everybody clap to this.
Say what? Get with the program.
It starts now.